This is A Voice, a podcast with Dr. Gillyanne Kays and Jeremy Fisher.
This is A Voice.
Hello and welcome to This is A Voice Season 7, Episode 6.
The podcast where we get vocal about voice.
I'm Jeremy Fisher.
And I'm Dr. Gillyanne Kays.
And we are back with Kate Bassett and her journey through vocal surgery and beyond. And we are just going to jump straight into the next part.
So you were doing okay. Things had improved a lot.
Yep.
What informed the decision? Why did you go for the vocal surgery?
Right. Okay. We'd gotten to a really good place, but when we were looking at the, the image of my vocal folds, there was still a bit of a loose edge to the. I always get muddled on which side it is. That's a good thing, though, that I'm not sitting here going, "What's this side?" It was let me get this right. It was a pseudo cyst.
Yes.
So it was left over. So where I had had sort of had that hard sort of bump from the bruise from that initial hemorrhage, it hadn't healed completely. It was loose and it wasn't going to go back. We weren't going to get that straight image that we wanted on the screen.
Yeah, so the edge of the vocal folds where they have to meet on the mucosa, it wasn't straight, so we had this pseudo-cystic bump,
yes,
if you like, which I think was probably from some scar tissue or the incomplete healing, which had happened because, unfortunately, like many singers, you'd carried on singing instead of being able to take that 7 to 10 days vocal rest immediately. And that you are not alone by any means. And
what was the effect? What was the effect of that?
Right. Well, actually, so we talked about this. So I remember the conversation I had with my speech and language therapist was that, you can go back to work and there are plenty of people, there are singers across the West End that have this and they're working and their careers are in good shape and you're going to be fine. However, you will get tired more quickly. You're going to be carrying it. Like a rucksack was the analogy.
Yeah, nice.
And she said, we've worked hard, we've done so well, and we can get back to 100%. We can do that. You have surgery. That terrifying word, that no singer wants to hear. But that was the only way that we were going to get back to 100% sort of healing.
I want to pick up that image because it's so clear. Basically, it's like being a dancer. You can do the whole routine, you can do all of the moves, you can sell it, but you're the only person in the chorus who is doing it with a rucksack on their back. Yeah, so you are having to work a lot harder and you're going to get tired much more quickly.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, you and I talked about this and like most singers who trust their teacher or vocal coach, you wanted to know if I thought you should have vocal surgery, which of course is obviously out of my remit other than to support you. I mean, even though I'd seen the pictures of the vocal folds, I can't make that decision. But one thing I knew was that in terms of what you used to do and what a musical theatre or a contemporary music singer needs to do, I knew that you didn't either were too afraid to sing with more muscle at the vocal fold level, or that it wasn't going to work. And of course, now knowing that the edge of the vocal folds was a bit bumpy, of course that would always be problematic, and that therefore for you to get back to the full function, it might need surgery. And I wanted you to get back to that full function. So I encouraged you to get a second opinion. And I would say this to any singer, if you're in doubt about advice to have surgery, no matter how much you trust that clinical team you were working with, and they were great, get a second opinion just to get another viewpoint. And that's what you did, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was a huge thing for me. It was, you just need that information. And like you said, there was never a question of trusting the people that I was working with. But it just opens out that that sort of visual that you've got, you could take all of that in, because it's something you just can't take lightly. And there are risks, and we discussed the risks. So it's just something I recommend, and this is something as well that I think is really important, that there is expense, when you're doing when you're going on this journey, when you're seeking out advice, when you're seeking out people's time, it costs money.
Yes.
But this is a long-term thing.
Yes.
So you've got to think long-term, and that second opinion was just such a great investment in just making me feel comfortable with what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Because it was a clear yes from them.
Yeah, and it made me feel comfortable because I knew both the clinicians concerned, and the speech and language therapist is a friend of mine. So I think I shared with you, I hope I did, I imagine I would have done, that I had a quick chat with her, and I said, I gather you all think, and she said, without question, she needs it, she should do it. And that set my mind at rest. And Kate, just as a little diversion, you're talking about financial things.
Yeah.
You had help from the wonderful Help Musicians organisation.
Right.
Can we give a little shout out for them?
Absolutely.
This is such a big part of why I talk about my my journey. Help Musicians were amazing. My husband now, and my now husband and I, we sat down, we had a meeting, and we told them, what had happened, who I was, and they said, we're going to take this on. And what do you mean? We're going to pay for everything. The surgery, all your appointments, your physio. They took me, and they financed everything. It's so important, again, that singers know that this is out there. This is what's available to us. If we're full-time working singers, there's so many resources available. And I think as much as we're not clear on what injury means, I think we're also not clear on the community that's there to support you.
Yes.
So important.
And we'll put a
grateful.
link to Help Musicians in the notes so that people can go and find out about them.
Because they fund not only singers but other musicians to take them back to health, which I think is wonderful. Should we talk a little bit about what happened post surgery? And do you know what I'm going to ask you? How long was the period for you from the surgery?
Hang on a minute. I think you're jumping.
I am jumping, yes. Okay.
I want to know how it felt to go through surgery.
Yikes. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. That was, So there's so many things. Just the risks. Julie Andrews was mentioned.
Yes.
Now, I've got to say, Julie Andrews is my childhood icon. I remember it being on the news when she lost her voice as a result of surgery. I could tell you where I was watching the news with my parents, and young Kate was absolutely devastated. And he said, this happens. I think the number was 1 in 100. It can happen. And so that was a big fear for me, that even, with somebody doing a great job, that things do go wrong. So that was on surgery, that was probably at the top of my mind.
Yeah.
Another risk was teeth, and mine are quite big. So they said they can get broken.
Yes.
Especially if they're larger than normal, which apparently mine are. But as you can see, I came out in one piece, both vocally and dentally.
I never thought I would hear a sentence quite like that.
Yeah.
I have had the privilege of watching a laryngeal operation, so I understand why the teeth are an issue.
Oh, yeah, that was, obviously I was more worried about the voice, but I thought, how am I going to wake up, and this is one of the really hazy memories that I have. And again, there was anaesthetic involved, so it might not have happened. But as I was sort of coming to, my surgeon said, look, great success. And there was an image, this is what we've done, And so I just remember being, just waking up and sort of so slow, but knowing, what am I waking up to? And it was good news, which was,
That's nice.
Wonderful.
And
Yeah.
actually, there's another aspect which was a spin-off of the vocal surgery, which, you know, when you and I were chatting informally the other day, I hadn't realised, which was the surgeon said that through the surgery, they were able to take a really deep, close look at what the problem was, and therefore, and that's a kind of close look that you sometimes can't take in any other way. Can you remember enough to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, actually, thank you for reminding me, because you know, that was another thing about should I or shouldn't I have the surgery, and I forgot that important detail, that was another way of getting that information. You know, that is the best way actually that you can really find out what you're dealing with at sort of vocal fold layer by layer level.
Yes.
It's the closest close up you're going to get.
Yes. Okay, so what happened after the surgery?
After the surgery, right. So I had 1 week of complete voice rest, and as you know, I love complete voice rest. So yeah, no talking, and that was purely because of the surgery. Obviously, constant contact means that you can't heal. So it was just to make sure that, you know, that I could heal. And then I was a bridesmaid in that time, which was fun.
I can't imagine going to a wedding and not saying anything at all.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And then what was the first step once you started talking? I mean, were you given particular instructions, or did you not talk until you'd been back to the clinic and they checked everything was okay? How did that work?
Yeah, so again, don't speak until you've seen us, get that image, take a look. Very positive outcome again, and then you know, that gradual, because of that voice rest and the tension that comes with it, you know, gradually easing back in. But I think what's important to mention here is that my road to recovery after surgery was quite short, and my speech and language therapist said, you're not going to take as long to recover from this because you've already done so much of the work pre-surgery. So actually we were able to bounce back quite quickly, and I'd already learned a lot of the steps, and my body knew the direction it was going in. So we were sort of jumping through those little milestones quite quickly at that point. So to get from surgery day to a comfortable, healthy voice, we were looking at 3 weeks.
Wow,
which was
that's really
short.
fast.
Doesn't that show? Because they're you know, they say in the clinical world now that having the habilitation period before surgery can be super important, particularly for voice surgery.
I want to pick up on something again, which is a week's voice rest. But a week's voice rest after vocal fold surgery, you expect it to be weeks or months, and yet that was enough.
And 3 weeks to functioning speaking voice, that is amazing.
And these things were surprising to me. I had no idea that the voice has a wonderful ability to heal itself. And he said 1 week from that sort of the sort of recovering from surgery. We don't know that. Singers do not know that. That when you're doing everything correctly, step by step, that the voice is a wonderful healing properties. Which was news to me.
I think the cellular regeneration of the vocal folds, to my understanding, it's a very quick turnover time, so that if you do have that voice rest, it can heal quite quickly. Of course, it depends what's been done.
You'd had the surgery, you'd had the week of silence, you'd had some of the exercises that you were then doing to get your voice back in. When did the singing start?
Yeah, when were you able to have a first session? I can't remember.
I can't remember, Gillyanne. And I wish if I'd known we were doing this 7 years later, I would have kept a journal.
Ballpark figure.
Right. So I've sort of got, there were sort of two timelines. So in terms of singing with you, I think we were given the green light quite early to work with you. And again, it's lovely when you've got practitioners that know each other, because they trusted you. That I would be in the studio with somebody that wouldn't suddenly, you know, get me leaping before I could walk.
Yes, absolutely.
So that was, so with that kind of trust, I think we started quite early. So, and I think I was gigging, but again, planning cautiously planning.
You just dropped that into the conversation. Oh, I think I was gigging at the time, yeah.
Can you remember which month you had the operation?
Right, I had the operation in mid-July, and one big date that I've got in my mind was that my full-time rehearsals for tour started in October.
Yeah.
That's it.
So that's when I was back to full-time theatre, touring, rehearsals every day, singing.
Amazing.
And I remember those rehearsals because I was cautious and I was really mindful of what I was doing. So I definitely, that was the point at which I was a full-time working singer again.
Yeah, and then that reminds me that you and I were already working in the August.
Yes.
And, you know, getting you, habilitating you towards that gig and that tour.
And we used it as a text because it was something that I'd already done. I had that muscle memory. And so there was elements of low pressure. I understood the workload. I knew what I was going into. So we, you know, working with that sort of knowledge of what it was going to be and training up for that was great. And then within that time, there might have been some low key gigs, you know, maybe something like an hour of singing at a care home or something like that, you know, just keeping things ticking along, but nothing where I would be forced to suddenly jump in before I was ready.
I think the whole business of working on a show that you already knew and that you already had physical experience of, there's a real positive there. There is also a negative, which is you had a muscle memory for doing it with the voice pre-injury. And now you were doing it with the voice post-injury, post-surgery. And so there would have been some ways that you would need to change what you were doing. And I think that's part of that is the being careful and being aware of what you were doing. You were now much more aware of what you were doing.
And I was on it. I was on that case because it's something we talked about, isn't it? And it was during this period, wasn't it, that we talked about tour behaviour, which is everybody talks at breakfast. What should I be doing?
And all day, and in the rehearsal.
They're all talking to me on the coach, ambient noise. So how did you handle that? What, you know, tell people what we did.
Oh, do you know what? It's so funny, but we had, you know, I love you, Gillyanne, because you tailor-made everything to work for where I was going, where we were headed. Okay, this is your breakfast warm-up. This is your warm-up for saying hello at the breakfast buffet. That's it. Just if you want to say hello before you're ready, before you've woken up, this is that's your breakfast warm-up, you know, and then when you get on the tour bus, it's perfectly okay. Put your headphones in. We talked about this. Go underground, you know, kind of find ways of kind of economizing throughout the day with how you use your voice. And then, you know, maybe around sound check time, you know, sort of after lunch, that might be a good time to sort of start getting your voice ready for your sound check. And that was another thing, you know, not sometimes just bad habits, but you might just throw your sound check out and then warm up before the actual show. But no, you know, warm up when you've got time. If you've got an hour in your room, take your time, you know, make it a nice, relaxing part of your day, you know, enjoy it. Enjoy the therapeutic things that you can do to help your voice be efficient. So, you know, starting with gentle humming in the shower right at the beginning of the day, and then maybe kind of a bit of time with your Dr. Vox. I have a Dr. Vox, by the way.
Yes.
You know, nice bit of massage and things like that. So, just looking at your day and deciding and making the decisions that work for you on how your voice is going to feel great by the end of the day, and not forcing yourself to use your voice too hard and heavy before you're ready, because then you start the day with some stress that, oh, my voice isn't quite right. I feel a bit tired. I've got to do a show tonight. That's not the best way to start a working day. You know, give yourself some time.
That's lovely.
I think I sort of said a lot there, but
love it.
No, I think that's really valuable, and also having a cool down if you need it.
Yes, absolutely. Especially particularly with that show, you know, I was singing quite a lot lower than my voice naturally sits, so I was sort of quite aware of that as well. And not sort of gripping, and that's really relaxing and unhooking all the time, unhooking, relaxing. We talked a lot about drunk Frida.
Oh, did we? Okay, right.
Do you remember that? That came back to me the other day.
Yeah.
Drunk Frida, drunk.
Okay.
I was very drunk. No, I'm not saying drink lots of alcohol to relax. It's not what I'm saying. But just that feeling of just so much easing of tension throughout your entire day, not just when you're in work mode, but the whole day. Yeah.
Love that.
That's very interesting. I'd completely forgotten. Maybe now is the time to ask you, what has changed for you as a result of having been through that experience? Because it's clear you are a very happy working singer now. It's, this has been a really great outcome. But what's changed for you, apart from becoming a mum and getting married and all of that stuff?
All that stuff. It was just a complete shift of priorities. And I look after myself so much better now. I put myself first. And I think we're worried about doing that. I think we're worried about being seen as being divas, being, difficult artists. And the opposite is true. If you're forced to do it, it just completely changes your outlook. I'm not gig chasing anymore, as in trying to do everything. I've got a much better measured sense of what is a balanced amount of, work, my vocal load, my workload. I've just come at it with new eyes, and it forced me to do that. But I have a healthier attitude now. And you're right. I am so much happier, which is why I'm desperate to tell people about my vocal injury. It's almost like a great thing that happened to me, which is a strange thing to say, but I feel that.
I think it's a wonderful thing to say. Yeah. Because it changes your mindset. It makes you look after yourself.
It's a wake-up call.
Do you think your career is better and that you're happier as a performer than you were previously? Would you say that?
Absolutely. My voice does more. It does more. I have artistic and technical freedom that I didn't have pre-injury. I'm not people-pleasing anymore. It's not problematic. It's not problematic in the sense of I'm probably more aware of how I work and who I work with, and not if a little red flag comes up. I think before I was worried that I would be the person that might cause somebody else to raise a red flag. And then you realize, no, I can look out for them too. I can look out for when somebody isn't looking after me, as so it's something, it's hard to make it sound like I'm not being confrontational with that.
No.
It's just about looking at the relationships that you build and working out which ones are healthy and good for you, and which ones aren't.
And it's also bringing in boundaries.
I was just going to say it's about boundaries.
It's bringing in boundaries to say, I'm perfectly okay with this that you're doing, but actually you've just stepped over one of my boundaries and I don't like the way that you've just dealt with me. So can we change that, please?
Yeah, it's okay to change. If it's not right, change is good. It's good, and I'm so happy, I'm so fulfilled. It's because, I looked at what I wanted, and I wanted a long career, I wanted a longer term career. And if anybody threatens that, then it's my job to look after it.
Very good point.
Beautiful point. So I'm wondering you've already given so much advice to other singers, but if I would say to you, what is your advice to other singers who might be worried about their voice? What would you say to them?
Okay, this has to come from my experience, and it's the one thing that I did wrong. Stop. It's simple. Stop. If you're not sure, stop. Even if you don't need to stop, but you were cautious, I could have stopped for 48 hours and I might not have had the journey that I had. And the outcome was fine. We recovered and we're great, but we could have done it in 2 days, not the best part of a year. Seek help, get a visual, And if you're not sure, get that visual first. You need to see. And we all do things where, if you're on tour with other colleagues and people are probably going to try and put your mind at ease. And someone said to me, oh, I mentioned what had happened, that first impact. And so you just caught your throat, Kate. Don't worry about it. You probably just caught your throat. That happens all the time when we cough. And if you're a singer that's looking for something, you need some reassurance, you might take that and go, yeah, I'll take that. And if that's wrong, so the best thing you can do is to just shut out all the noise. It doesn't matter what your calendar says. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant if you put your career at risk. It doesn't matter if you've got jobs for the rest of the week. It's so easy.
You come first. And what you're saying is, if in doubt,
shut up. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's just so profound.
It's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, finding out so much more about your story. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
As I said, stories are important. If my story means that other people confront this, face these difficulties that singers face with some hope, there aren't just horror stories, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Thank you for letting me share my story with you.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure, and thank you to Kate for, first of all, being so open, and also for being very clearly an advocate for other singers.
Yes. How can people find you? Do you have a website? Do you have a Facebook? Do you have an Instagram? How can they find you?
Yes, I do. So my name is Kate Bassett, SST, and you can find my website. That's katebassettsinger.co.uk. I am on Instagram at Kate Bassett Singer. And if you'd like to check out Gatsby's Jukebox, we're on Instagram as well, at Gatsby's Jukebox. And we are currently recording some arrangements that we'll be putting on Spotify soon. So it would be wonderful if people want to listen to and enjoy those as well. That
Brilliant.
Great.
We will put all of those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you
so
for having me.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
This is A Voice, a podcast with Dr. Gillyanne Kays and Jeremy Fisher.